everyone, welcome to the Carlton Wrap 2022 season preview. Today I'm joined by none other than Ari Stamatakos. Welcome back to the channel, Ari. Excited to have you once again. Pretty big preview, a season that we're expecting quite a lot from this season after obviously disappointing last season. How are you feeling going into season 2022, and what are you looking forward to the most?
Thank you very much for having me once again. But after the practice game that we went to yesterday, I'm feeling a little bit more confident. I know it was the most practice of practice matches, but there's just this aura about the club which I haven't felt in a long time. So hopefully they can fulfill on the many years of promises they've given us.
Well, obviously, we're recording this the day after that Carlton St Kilda match, so this could be released after the Melbourne game. So what we say may be not so true in a week's time.
So when we get pumped by the Ds, then just don't listen to this.
Don't listen, exactly. But let's start going back one season. It was obviously sort of a similar build-up to the season, I guess. I think we expected a little bit of a similar start. I guess when we brought in Williams and Sard, we thought things were going to change in terms of the way we transition the ball, and that our sort of defensive structure would be a bit unique compared to the other teams. But I guess you can't rely on that one structure for the majority of the game, and that obviously showed when we were getting pumped 5 or 6 goals in a row when the mids and the forwards weren't in sync. What did you think of that season in the end? Because for me, I didn't really see that as a surprise. I wasn't too shocked when we got to the end of the season and weren't in finals, and that wasn't as much as a shock for me. So what did you take out of that season?
You're right. I don't think it was a shock for me either. It was just more disappointment because we brought in big names. We brought in 2 players who could be stars of the competition. Like Williams showed his class, and Sard has been very good for a long time, right? And it was just disappointing because it was almost like the same thing over and over and over again, and it wasn't like we were progressing in any sense. It was just the same mistakes, the same issues structurally, and the same people bailing us out, like Walsh pretty much every game, Harry pretty much every game, Wiedering. It was the same thing, same 3 players playing well, and then the same structural issues every single game, which was by round 15 just became frustrating, and by then the season was all but gone, so we couldn't really do a lot about it.
Well, I guess we started off okay. I mean, we sort of took it to Richmond round 1, which is what we'd been doing the last two years, and then that Collingwood game, for me at least, was the key determining factor that we weren't anywhere near where we needed to be, because as the season progressed and you see where Collingwood fell to, that was quite obvious that we weren't at the standard. Even though we beat them a bit later on, I don't think it was the same sort of game, and I think we already knew our chances of finals were gone, even though we were mathematically still a chance. I think getting rid of Teague was the right thing to do. I don't know what you think about that, but do you think without Teague that season, if you had brought Voss in to start the start of 2021, do you think it would have been a bit of a different season?
I mean, it's really hard to say. Like, it's because we haven't seen him coach the season yet. Well, like for Carlton, obviously he coached Brisbane a while ago, but I was not against the Teague sacking. I was just defending him more than a lot of other people. And I'm not saying that he was like our saviour coach or whatever. But if you look at it, he got really unlucky, right? If you look at it, his first full season was not even a season in 2020. And then 2021 wasn't like it. That was hardly a proper season as well. And we got brutalized by injuries. Like, it's one of those things for me where if he coached a full season, like with COVID not impacting it at all, and then with a pretty clean injury, like obviously you're not going to get your best 22 every game, but like with a pretty good injury list, I feel like because we showed at points last season we could play some really good football. But I think he did get unlucky in that sense. But like I said before, just the same things over and over again. He was a little bit out of his depth, and by the end of it, I think it was the right decision. And I don't think that I like. And on the Voss thing, it's hard to say. I doubt he would have done worse. Put it that way.
Well, I think when we talk about, how you said about Teague, how he didn't really get a good run at it, which I agree. I think, he came in the end of 2019. That was his really only normal season of coaching. 2020, obviously, hubbed the whole time. And then 2021, we were suffering with injuries. Do you think that impacted the players in terms of the culture? Because I think the way we see it was that he had such a poor run that equally the players had such a poor run because there was nothing to bounce off, that he was getting, hurled at by the media for poor performances. The players couldn't really rely on him to spark any energy when I don't think he had any energy himself coaching that team. So what did you sort of make of that? Do you think there was a direct correlation between the players' culture and the coaching culture?
Yeah, you bang on there. It was negative energy bouncing off negative energy, and it was just there was like nothing was going right. So there was no like spark to light the flame, and without that, we were just kind of bouncing in this we're just like kind of plateauing as a football club in general. It was like we had this fall, and then from 2015 onwards, it's been a steady rise, obviously with fluctuations here and there. But from 2020 onwards, it kind of just felt that we plateaued. Maybe even 2021 onwards, we just kind of plateaued. And there was nothing that could, on both the player's sense and the coach's sense, that could spark anything. And it was weird when you speak about the culture, because from the outside looking in, the players all seem to get along pretty well. It's obviously it's a young list, right? So there's also like similar age brackets, similar like growing up, like they can relate to each other a lot more than perhaps other lists that we've had in the past, where it's been much more like split between there's been a lot of players between like the 27 to 31 bracket, and then that's pretty much it. I think culture is very underrated, like not underrated, but it's undervalued by most people. I think when you look at teams that have had success, especially from out of nowhere, like Richmond, when one season they were rubbish, the next season they were like winning the flag. It's because they just built that culture, and they built that us against them mentality, where it's all of us, all 22 players, are fighting for a cause, right? I just don't think we had that in 2021. It was kind of a free-for-all when we were playing. There was no cohesion.
Well, I guess I sort of, thought about this right now, that when you talk about teams who have had that quick culture change, and I was just thinking, like, membership-wise, every year we get something like a quote or something about them coming, whereas maybe I'm wrong to say this, but I feel like I haven't heard that much about those sort of quote thingies this year, which sort of shows that they're not feeding into that pressure, relying on one type of quote to lead them into the season, that at least if there's expectations, they're setting them within the club, not whatever the board wants to set, or, marketing, etc. So I think, I don't know, but do you think that's a positive thing? I see that as something that is growth for a team that has often just, given in to those type of things in the past to live up to those expectations.
Yeah, I think the less, obviously you want to hear talk about your club, right? And you want to hear confidence that, we expect to play finals, right? Because you don't want Michael Voss to come out and say, oh, we're just going to be competing, or whatever like Boland used to say, right? But like not having this massive like market, like you said, marketing slogan, or this like phrase that, oh, we're coming, or whatever, like can you smell what the Blues are cooking, or whatever, like stuff like that. It's just about keeping it in-house, and the more you keep it in-house, the more it bounces off it bounces off the walls, and it cultivates that energy. And the less the media know about our expectations, the less they can speak about it. So for me, that's only a positive.
It is, and I guess it's nice to not have to stick to anything that has been presented to us, and we can at least have a bit of an open mind. We'll move on to now the key personnel changes, coaching-wise. So obviously Teague was departed and Voss came in from Port Adelaide as an assistant. So he's now become our senior coach. Aaron Hamill came back. Well, he was at the Blues originally, went over to the Saints, and now he's come back. He's our backline coach. Ashley Hansen, forward line defensive coach. I'm not too sure about him. I know he played at West Coast during that premiership era, which is important. You always want that experience. Tim Clark, midfield coach. Luke Power, still there, head of development. So he was there last year. Daniel O'Keefe, development coach in the midfield. Bruiser's still there as a ruck coach, which I really like. I like previous rucks staying in the role. Aaron Greaves, coaching innovation manager, and Torrin Baker, development coach. So those are not all of them are changes, but a couple there are new faces. So it's quite a new group, which from a player perspective, is that a scary prospect, having to completely learn new culture values, I guess. Tactical implementations are different. Is that a scary process, or is that something you can at least be excited for, knowing that there's change coming?
I think, like anything, like change is always scary to some extent, right? But it's good. I think it's exactly what this playing group needed, because Teague didn't make that many changes to his coaching stuff, I don't think, from the Bolton era. It was pretty much just Bolton out, Teague in, and everything else stayed the same, as far as I know. So just fresh faces, because like we said, I think we just plateaued and there was no spark. Whereas new coaching staff, new tactics, new models, new values can light that spark. So yeah, I'm happy with. Obviously, I don't know. Like, I'm not too clued up on the quality of every one of these coaches, right? But new faces is better than having the same old rubbish, to put it frank, that we've had for the past decade, pretty much.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, let's talk a bit about Voss quickly. We know him more for what he's done as a player, and we honestly probably don't. I don't remember anything from him playing, so we just know and have heard of what he did as a player. And I guess experience-wise, someone who knows what the winning culture is like. I mean, a three-peat team has happened twice over the last 20 years, so that's quite rare. He's come over from Port Adelaide. He did start at the Lions in, I think, 2009, and he was there until 2011. And he made finals with them the first year, where they beat us in that elimination final. And I think from there on, they sort of declined.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sort of have looked at that and judged him off that. But I think that Lions side was quite poor, and it was falling apart because most of those premiership guys, well, they either were retiring and the new guys were coming through. So I'm not really going to look too much into that. He has been at Port Adelaide for the last couple of years. I don't know how long he's been, but he must have been there for quite a while. He's obviously been under a system that has worked for Port Adelaide since at least the 2019 period onwards, making the prelims the last 2 years. How important is that for a group that hasn't tasted finals? And I don't think there's any player left that was in that 13 final apart from Ed Curnow, I think. But what do you think about that? Is that really important? Will that make a really big difference?
Yeah, 100%. And just quickly on Voss at Brisbane, I don't think anyone should take anything from that at all, because that was pretty much a decade ago. He was coaching his mates. Like, Brown was in that team, Black was in that team. It doesn't work. That dynamic doesn't work. And he moved literally from playing to coaching, like that. So we shouldn't take anything into that. Like, we shouldn't look at that as some sort of barometer, right? But his stint at Port, is very important, because he's got he already had expectations as a player, right? Now he's been at Port. He's been in a system that's been through finals, been through prelims. He has expectations like no one else, right? So it's not only the knowledge that he got from it and the experience in terms of playing finals, how to coach through finals, but also what to expect and how to get there. It's all good to be like, all right, guys, we need to play finals, but if we don't know how to get there, then what's the point? Whereas Voss knows how to get there, because that Port side, again, I don't know exactly when he came in, right? But it was kind of from like 2016, 17, 18, it was his slow rise. 19, this slow rise, and then 20, bang, prelim, 21, prelim. That he knows that process to some extent anyway.
Well, what I've liked seeing, at least what we've got from the media team, his comparison and sort of that openness to describe the relationship he had with those Port players compared to our players. I think he compared, Sam Walsh to, I think, the likes of Boak. But I could be wrong, but it was something along those lines where he was making those comparisons. And I guess when those guys have reached such a high level making a prelim, I think that's really refreshing, at least for those players to hear that they're doing the work required to at least reach that level. So, what do you make of that? Is that something that can boost the confidence? Because I guess that can conversely create a bit of pressure on like players like Walsh that they don't want to fall below that standard.
Well, Wines, when he won the Brownlow, was like Voss was a big part of this, right? Like of him winning the Brownlow. So that would only give players like Walsh in particular confidence, and I don't think Walsh is one to like falter under expectation. So yeah, for me that's only a good thing that he had such an influence over that Port midfield, and coming over to Carlton, it should for me have the same effect. Obviously to a lesser extent because he's the senior coach, and he needs to be a lot more like macro in his management style. But yeah, to a similar extent, there should be an upwards trajectory in our midfield and the individual performances of our midfielders.
Well, I think time we move on to our player analysis, I think we can sort of integrate a bit more of what we've said about Voss during these player analyses, because there are quite a lot of relationships that have developed since that time. And I think if we go back 12 months about what we were saying about these players would be a lot different to what we're saying now, just in terms of positioning, tactical awareness. These players are probably going to be a bit different under Voss's system. So Let's start right at number 1, Jack Silvani. I mean, we know what to expect from Jack at this point. He's going to give 110% all the time, and I really love the way he's opened himself up to be quite diverse in where he can play across the ground. Really, you can put him anywhere and he'll do the job he needs to. Played pretty well yesterday against the Saints. He was able to read the ball really well, got himself involved physically really early on, got that hold on the ball tackle. So he's progressed really well into season 22 from 21. No decreases in performance. Really only seems like he's improved. Yep. What can Jack do better, I guess, this season? And what can he maintain that will keep him at that really high level?
I don't think he needs to improve drastically on anything, because he's not like a Sam Walsh or a Crips. He's a role player, right? And he that's not saying that he's a bad player at all, because you need role players, and he can do his role wherever it is very well. So there's nothing for me. Probably just like adapting to scenarios a little bit quicker. That's for me the only thing that he needs to fix.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I'm interested to see whether Voss will play him as a follow-up ruckman during most of the year. I guess I'm not sure if Conan's meant to be back round 1 or not, but I'm assuming it's going to be Pitternet as your main, of course, and then Jack as a follow-up. So I guess when you're down a couple of forwards, whether you take the risk of putting Jack in the ruck if Pitto's off, or you lose a tall forward in a sense. So where do you see him playing most of his footy this year?
I don't think he'll be in the ruck, purely because of, I think he played there last season out of necessity. And I think Harry will spend more time in the ruck because Charlie's back. Yeah, so I don't necessarily see him playing in the ruck. I can see him playing in the midfield a little bit if we need a big body, And other than that, he'll float off half forward, I think. And that's what I think his best position is. But, yeah, Jack can pretty much play anywhere.
So I'll ask this for every player. So starting 22, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yep, and definitely a yes for me. Number 2, Paddy Dow. I'll start with what I think because personally I'm a little sick of Dow purely because of the amount of time he's had in our system and the sort of, I guess, lack of development, you could say. I guess he has improved, but not to the extent someone who went that high in the draft should be having after 3 or 4 years. And I guess with a poor culture, poor system, it's harder to develop. But look, when you're constantly bouncing in and out of the twos, I just don't think. Well, time is really running out at this point. I think it's this. I was lenient last year, but this year, it's it. I don't think if he doesn't play any more than, I'd like to say 5 or 6 senior games, you need to get rid of him. Personally, I just don't think he's an asset for our midfield unless he plays well. Because if he doesn't play well, he doesn't do anything at all.
Yeah.
So what do you think with Paddy? I guess we're pretty similar in our views, but where will his best football come if he does get a role in the seniors?
It's consistent. The consistency is his biggest thing. Just continuity in the side and continuity in one set game plan. Because the VFL and the AFL, while I assume they'd implement the similar philosophies, it's not the same in terms of tactics and micro tactics. So continuity in the side is very important. And because, like you said, he doesn't impact games when he's not playing well, like someone like a Walsh does that, or like a Makai does that. When they're not playing well, they just do enough to almost play well, in a sense. He is at this stage our bench midfielder, if that makes sense. Like in our 22, he's on the interchange as our midfielder, in my opinion. Because he's got that explosiveness, he's got that. While he doesn't have like the ball use, very good. He's very good instinctively and very good on the inside. I'm confident with him this year. I don't know why. I think it's off the back of his 2021, like that end of season. He played really well, so hopefully he can just kick on and play well this season.
Well, no, I agree. I think what he showed, at least I remember, I think it was the Collingwood game where, like, his best is actually really good. I think, like, he can get to the standard, but it's just consistency. Whether that will become a recurring thing of him being able to play good footy week in, week out, it's really the determining factor. So I guess starting 22, yes or no?
Just about. Although, for me, he's in that bracket where he can float in or float out, which is something not good for him. He needs to be in the side. By about round 10, he needs to have locked a place in the side for me. But yeah, he's on the fringes. I think he sneaks in, just about.
Yeah, I'm on the border as well. I think it's only sneaking in if he plays consistent footy, I think, because I think about it this way. I wouldn't put him in against someone like Richmond. I think he's a major liability in that midfield who will get outrun and just...
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's really going to have to show something consistently in the VFL. Otherwise, not for me, unfortunately. Number 3, Jesse Moloch. Look, I think we can just accept that he'll probably play most of his footy in the reserves this season. A lot of people see him getting a start, but he's quite raw. He's just come in. A low possibility, but I don't think we know too much about him as of yet. He played, obviously, his footy in the Waffle, so I guess he does have a little bit of senior experience, but probably not enough to say, look, round 1, you're walking into this side. So I guess Motlop's a bit of a wait and see his reserves progress, but we'll move on from him. Number 4, Lockie O'Brien. Same as Paddy Dow for me, but I quite think O'Brien should have got the flick at the end of last season. And what we saw yesterday of O'Brien hasn't changed. He just has his left foot. Otherwise, not much else going for him. He'll have good moments here and there, but it's just his left foot. So clearly Voss really, really loves it and thinks he's a massive asset in that club to keep him there, to be quite honest, because I don't think he's a player that is anywhere near AFL standard.
Well, yeah, he's on the rookie list, so you would assume it's his last chance. I'm a bit bullish about O'Brien. When he plays well, I think he's like Dow. When he plays well, he can be like we saw in that St Kilda game last season. He was very good, but that was his only good game of the season. So it's just about consistency. And if Voss can build a midfield tactic which gets the best out of him, playing on the wing, so be it. That's great. And hopefully, we don't want to see players do poorly, right? We want to see every player on the list be very good in whatever they're meant to be doing. So yeah, hopefully O'Brien can reach the standard that we expected, or that we expect of him.
Well, I'm going to say no for a start in 22, just because if it doesn't look like he's really improved in the off season, and maybe I'm harsh, and just because I've had this sort of pessimistic opinion on him, but personally, I think he'd have to do more than Paddy to actually get a regular start in that 22. So he's a no for me. What about you?
I think it helps that he plays on the wing.
Yeah,
because we've got 3 wingers in the whole team. I think he starts just again. The more we say, he's on the fringes, but he might start, is probably a bad view of our list as a whole. But if he put it this way, if he was playing anywhere other than on the wing, he wouldn't play.
Yeah,
I think he might play purely out of necessity and purely out of we don't want to play Walsh out there, Chera out there, anyone like that out there. We need a proper winger, and O'Brien is probably the only proper winger on our list.
Well, it was a good lead in to Adam Chera, number 5. I love what I saw from him yesterday, and I feel like I didn't really notice what he did at Freo that much, and I guess it was made more apparent yesterday because he does all that he needs to do as an inside midfielder. He's not. I thought he's not someone like Walsh who likes to manipulate the game and get into those positions where he controls it. He just gets to the right spot, gives it off, gets to where he needs to be. He's there. He's very crafty, and I don't think I really realised that till watching him for Carlton. I guess, when you're watching Freo, you don't pay that much attention, but I love him, and I think he was probably my favourite pickup so far. Not that there was a lot, but I've loved what I've seen from him.
He was very good against St Kilda, and he works very well in space. I saw when he's given the ball in space, he can really damage. Probably the only not criticism, but is a little bit not weak. Weak is a very, very harsh word, but doesn't have the strength in the hips that someone like a Crips does. So he can't break tackles. He can't go through 3 players like Crips does. He just needs to, because he got caught holding the ball a couple of times, I noticed. So he just needs to find that balance about where to position himself, when to play, when to take a tackle on, etc. But they'll come with time. They'll come with a continuity in the squad, knowing your teammates more. So I don't think that's too much to worry about for Chera at this stage.
Well, I guess it's easy, yes, for starting 22. No, yeah. So we'll move on from Chera. Number 6, Zach Williams. What we saw from him last year, I guess overall was disappointing. I didn't see it as that terrible purely because I just don't think he worked under Teague's system at all, and I don't think he was comfortable in that team at all. So I wasn't too concerned with what I saw from him because, even what we saw yesterday, he looked looked much more comfortable in the role he was playing, and it seemed like he enjoyed being on that halfback flank instead of just being known as the halfback flanker. You've got to make those runs. You've got to find that kick. I think he manipulated the way he played a bit better, and think his teammates are actually starting to understand his running patterns a little bit better, whereas last year it didn't seem like there was a lot of cohesiveness with the patterns that were going. Teammates would sort of run in weird directions that didn't really help him out. So what are your thoughts? Well, at least your expectations for him going on to this season, because I think it's really different what we expect this season since he's not that fresh face, that big expectation.
Well, like, obviously he needs to improve, right? And obviously, by the looks of things, he's going to play off the half-back line almost exclusively. I don't think he gets under the centre bounce against the Saints. I'm not too sure about that, but he just needs to find that connection with Sard, and we expect both of them are going to start off the half-back flank in any like normal circumstance. So it's just about finding that connection and exploiting his assets, which is his kicking, his pace, his like power, and just being like using those to full effect, and then just being competent at like defensively, because he's not going to take the most dangerous small forward. So he's like, when we're versing Brisbane, he's not going to take Charlie Cameron or anything like that. So there is a little bit less defensive emphasis on his game naturally because of that. But yeah, hopefully he just needs to improve, and I think we all think he will, because a new coach, new regime, fresh start, he'll kick on in 2022, and yeah, he'll start, he'll play every game that he's fit. There's no worries on that end for me.
Well, yeah, he's a start in 22 for me. I think we're just hoping he plays consistent footy, but at least consistent footy that he enjoys playing.
Yeah.
That's sort of our main thing for him. Number 7, Matt Kennedy. I'll let you start on this one. Tell me what you want to tell me about him and what you expect.
Yeah, Matt Kennedy. I loved Matt Kennedy's, especially his second half of the season. In probably apart from Walsh and Makai, he was our best player from like around 15 onwards, around 16 onwards. He just kept going and going and going, and he was that midfield help for Crips that we lacked, or that we thought we had with Setterfield, and then he kind of dipped off, unfortunately, in 2021. He proved to be that big body. Now with Hewitt, I don't necessarily think he needs to be as good as he was, because now he's got help. And then like everyone can help each other and work around each other. So I'll throw back at you. What are your, like, where do you see him sitting at about around 15, around 16? Where do you see Matt Kennedy being in terms of the holistic view of the squad?
Well, he should be in that squad every week. Personally, That's what I think. Whether he plays inside, as an inside midfielder, I don't think he needs to anymore. I think I want to see him play that 2019 style where he was just leaping at it and just being really demanding with the space he was running into. I mean, a game that sticks out, I think it was, I think I remember the Adelaide St Kilda games 2019 where he was just there and he was making an impact. He's someone who will take the load off Harry and Charlie, I guess, in that forward line. And I think we've got a lot of creative players, at least smaller forwards that can make a lot of space this year. I haven't really seen that for a long time. I think we've had a lot of forwards that, jam the space, whereas I think you got people like Martin, Fisher, Kennedy. They are like really good runners. So Kennedy for me has just got to stick in that half forward line. He's obviously can move into the midfield. I just don't think he needs to, at least. I think it's more of a, if he needs to in a game, depending on X scenario, sure. But I just think,
I think that's spot on. He's a scenario player. So if the other team have kicked 2 in a row and their confidence is up, putting Kennedy in the midfield will shut that down pretty much instantly, because he's that big body. He got very good anticipation of where the ball's going to go, and he'll get it, lock it in, kill any momentum, and he'll do his role.
Starting 22?
Yes.
Yep, easy. Fogarty, number 8. He only played one half yesterday. which I think that was purely because he was playing in the reserves afterwards. He wasn't too involved, did a couple good things. I'm not sure what to expect with Fogarty because he had a really good start to 2021 and was sort of that unexpected breakout player.
Yeah.
The second half, I guess he was just not loving his footy as much. He didn't look as motivated each week. I mean, I think we'll start with, is he a starting 22 player for you?
Yeah. Oh, I want to be careful with how many players I say are, because then we're going to have 26 players and can't do that. But yeah, I think he's good enough too. I think if he can do anything like he did in the first half of 2021, then yeah, 100%. Because for the first 4 or 5 games, he was electrifying. Like, he was really good. So, and he was probably our best pickup in terms of performance last year. I know he petered off towards the end of the season and he got dropped, but for a player who hasn't really had a consistent run at Geelong, coming to a new team under tumultuous circumstances to an extent, he did more than his role. And yeah, I think he has. Yeah, I think he can start, because what I noticed, and this moment sticks out in my head, against Freo in round 3 last season, he started in the forward pocket, did good work, moved up to half forward, started having more of an influence, and then was bang in the next centre bounce. So he can have that influence and he can build in that game, which I think is very important. So based off that, he can start next season.
Well, yeah, I agree with what you said. I think Fogarty definitely is someone who did make quite a good impact on the game each time. For me, he's probably a starting bench player. I think you could probably find better options than him as a starting, but I like that he's a depth player in a way now, as long as you've got a fit 22, that's of course. But no, I do like what we've seen from Fogarty so far. I think he'll improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see where he goes. Number 9, sole captain this year, Patrick Crips. We'll sort of fly over Crips just a bit more to get through these players, because I guess we know what to expect from him. But he was one of those players I wanted to touch on with the relationship with Voss. I think we're expecting something different, and he looked fit.
Yeah,
he looked, and my initial thoughts were that he looked like he'd figured his body out in a way, in terms of weight and shape.
Yeah, because obviously we had that whole losing weight thing, which was completely wrong, because that took away his biggest asset. But yeah, he looked trim. He looked like not bulky. Like, he didn't look big, like overly big, but he just looked like that was his perfect body type of thing. So yeah, hopefully Voss will know how to get the best out of him, because he's a Brownlow medalist, 3-time premiership player, playing in a similar, obviously a little bit different players, but similar role, similar. They had similar assets for, obviously I didn't watch Voss that much, but for what I've read and what I've heard about him, there were similar players. They're similar-ish players, so Voss will know how to get the best out of him, 100%.
Number 10, Harry Makai. Same with Crips. I mean, there's not much to really analyse with him, because he is the most elite of his type of player. So there's not much you can really look at. Interesting question: does he go back to back in the Common?
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I think you'll get more attention off defenders, and teams will have tactics to stop him. So I doubt it. And going back to back in the Common is pretty tough. I don't think not a lot of players have done it, for what I can remember anyway. So it'd be good to see. Hopefully, maybe Charlie this year. Hopefully.
I would love it. I think. I mean, we'll touch on Charlie a bit later, but I think Charlie. Personally, I don't think he'll return to what he was at.
Yes.
It just doesn't look like he's that player. It's
and
probably just a system thing as well. But
yeah, we'll speak about him when it's his turn, right? But you expect that he's coming off pretty much not playing footy for 2 years, or for 2.5, or for 1.5 seasons. Like, he's not going to be that. Like, if any player in any sport doesn't play for 18 months, they're not going to be the same as they were before.
Yeah. I mean, we can easily say starting 22 for Crips and Makai.
Just about.
Just about.
Probably on the bench.
Number 11, Mitch Mcgovern. Funny looking at the club website, he's still listed as a key forward. That will not be the case. You did assume. I guess he can go up forward.
Yeah, he can if we need.
But I mean, I think another one like Fogarty, does he start in 22?
Yes, yeah, as a defender.
Yeah,
I think if he was playing as a forward, probably not.
Yeah.
But as a defender, yes, out of necessity, you could say. But I thought from the St Kilda game, he played well as a defender. He didn't do anything, like he didn't play bad. And for his first proper outing as a defender against an opposition, it was a pretty good start, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with what you said. I think he played well. I think well is the right word to say because he didn't play insanely great, nor was it a bad performance. But with Mitch, where do you draw the line in terms of performances for him? Because I guess the problem with him transitioning into a new role is that, like, how long do you give him to solidify that spot? Because I guess you can't say, oh yeah, round one you had a shit performance, you're out.
Yeah. Well, I guess it'd be circumstantial, right? If like round 1 to 6 he gets dominated, he's like his direct opponent kicks 4 every game, then yeah, right, fair enough. He's just not, and it's not him being a bad footballer. It's just him not fitting in that role, which is completely fine because not every failed forward has to be an elite defender. So yeah, but I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll play pretty much every game as that third intercept defender. But it's probably about just if we at the end of every game, if the first talking point is Mitch was bad or Gov was not up to it for a consistent period, then that's probably where you're like, okay, this hasn't worked. But I don't think that'll be the case. I back him in terms of his ability because I feel like he might suit being a defender a little bit more. I don't know. Is that where you're sitting on him as well?
Well, I've always had this thing that, I sort of started when that 2020 game against St Kilda where Jaron Geary went up to the forward line and completely gave us a bath because I think that I guess if you're a forward, you know how to defend much better because you play that role. So I completely like the fact that he's playing in the back line because I think there's no one better to read a forward's play than a previous forward.
Yeah.
But I think with McGovern, it's very, it's instrumental that he plays well because I think we'll know straight away whether it was worth the change or not. I think it will be very obvious. So I'm a bit worried because if it doesn't go the right way, then I guess we have Lewis Young, but I don't think he's as developed yet. But I think he will maintain a spot. I'm just still wanting to see against a couple different teams. I guess Melbourne will be a great indicator. Because
we've got that exact comparison with Jake Lever.
Yeah,
we can literally compare their games because they're going to play pretty much the same role. Yeah. So it'll be good to see.
So I get we sort of both starting 22. I'd say yes. But I think you can move him out quite easy if he doesn't stand up to those expectations. Number 12, Tom de Koning. I mean, we'll leave injury-wise whatever's going on with his shoulder because I think he'll play most of the season anyway. I've always liked him from when he started. I think he's shown he's got the class to become quite a good ruckman, and even pushing forward, I like that he can really switch just like that.
Yeah,
going from the ruck to the forward line.
Yeah, it's his Matthew Cruiser 2.0 in my opinion. Obviously, different players in some senses, but also very similar players in others. So, with Cruiser at the club coaching, hopefully there's much knowledge can be passed down to Tom. And yeah, for me, he's starting 22 when fit. Does he play alongside Pitternet? I think if possible, yes, because Tom can go forward more than Pitto can. But Pitto isn't a slouch going forward. Like we saw last season, he went there at times and he had a little bit of an impact. He's a big body, especially if Harry's off the ground or something like that. Then yeah, so I think Tom. I like where Tom's game has progressed, especially from last season. I think he got better as he played more and more games. But yeah, he's the modern day ruckman, very athletic. So yeah, I'm happy with his progression. And for me, he starts when I don't think is he fit for round one.
I can't remember. It will be either round 1 or round 2.
Yeah. So yeah, whenever he's fit, he'll be a 22. He'll be.
But I did
22.
see him before the game yesterday. He was out there doing tap work just before it. So obviously he's We'll see where he goes. Yeah, and he's starting 22 for me. Number 13, Liam Stocker. I mean, we've sort of loved seeing him progress. He's so fun to watch, and I think he's just sort of burst out of the blocks. I'd love to see him start. I think he should, at least. Where do you stand with him?
He will. I think he's the archetypal Michael Voss player, in my opinion. That. He's a prick. Pretty much say it like that. Like you hate to play against him, but when he's on your team, you absolutely love him. So yeah, when hopefully the ankle injury, there's no setbacks in rehab, and then when he's fit, he'll play.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's much more to add for him. I think it's just a matter of time before he really establishes himself as a consistent 22 player. He was sort of already reaching that stage at the end of last year, so I guess it's just building on that this year. Liam Jones is still on the club website, awkwardly. So we'll move on to Sam Dougherty, number 15. I've been really confused with Doc because I'm actually not sure what to expect this year.
Yeah, Sam.
So I'm not sure whether it's...
Yeah, I'm not putting any expectations on him.
Yeah,
because
I think we'll...
Yeah, his health is infinitely times more important than football, right? So
I think we'll just sort of leave Doc because we know what he's like anyway as a player, so it's not like there's much to comment on.
His experience is set in stone as a player. Yeah.
So number 16, Jack Carroll, one of our pickups from the 2020 draft, I think. So he played most of his season. Well, he had a shoulder injury, I think, at the end of 2020 that he didn't actually start playing till the middle of 2021. I watched him in the reserves at the end of the year, and he stood out. He's very, very gritty. He's very physical player, likes to read the play outside the contest and make those little connections through the middle of the ground. He's definitely put on some muscle in the off season, what we've seen on those pictures.
Yeah.
I think personally he's not a starting 22, but that's not because of his ability. It's just a development thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably just players more experience ahead of him. So hopefully he can make his debut this season. It'll be good to see. There's been a lot of hype around him. So yeah, he won't start unless obviously there's injuries. But yeah, hopefully in the resis, the VFL gets a proper season and then he can progress through there. Because he's still only 19, so
yeah. He was the youngest in his draft group, so I think he must be he's not the youngest anymore in the group, but still a lot of time for development. Number 17, Brody Camp. He played forward yesterday, which I'm still not too sure if that was a permanent change or it was just no Harry, let's just try something out. So I'm very confused how to analyse him in that way because I'm not actually sure what. I don't even think he walks into our 22. But yet again, same like Carroll, he's still just got development, but he's still got. You can tell he's got it. And I like what I saw from the Port Adelaide game. Very good leap, able to impact the contest when it comes down into our defensive 50.
Yeah.
So I'm liking what I'm seeing. At least it's good signs. You could, much better than saying, "Oh, look, you don't know, he might not do that well." So we'll move past Kemp. Sam Walsh. Is there anything to say? There's not much to say. He'll do his job.
Brownlow, Walsh, right?
Brownlow. Correct.
Brownlow.
Should have won it last year.
Yeah. Or Brownlow Crips, maybe joint winners.
Joint winners.
And then Conan Makai, joint Coleman. Imagine that.
Oh.
And yet we'll still finish like 11th somehow.
There's some sports bet on that right now.
Imagine.
There is something on that. Yeah, but we'll move past Walsh. We know what he's going to do. He's a starting 22 in any team. Corey Durden, number 19. Terry Degani's favourite, obviously, sponsor. I liked what I saw from him. And even I remember as well, I saw him in the reserves, and he really takes the game on. And someone that I think will be quite like Betts-esque in a way.
Yeah.
I can see that a little bit. So I yet again, another fringe player is just going to stay in the reserves, which I think injuries will be the only way he comes in, but he's definitely on the right track.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, like he'll be 21 by the time the season really gets underway. So he's and playing that small forward role, he can come in if there's an injury, and he knows his craft. Like he knows what he needs to do. So he's only going up, and he doesn't need to play 20 odd games a season, especially this season. So yeah, he'll be right playing in the reserves for a bit.
Number 20, Lockie Plowman. Floor's all yours because you love Plowman. So go ahead.
I don't love him. I love Sam Walsh. I don't love Lockie Plowman. All due respect, Lockie, but I like him more than a lot of other people because I think he's so underappreciated in most circles. And what for me is frustrating about the response to him is every player makes mistakes. Even Sam Walsh makes mistakes. I know that's a shock to some people, but he does, right? But for whatever reason, whenever Lockie Plowman makes a mistake, it's always amplified and by everyone. And yes, he makes a mistake. He's playing in defence. That's just the nature of the beast. When you're in defence and you make a mistake, it's probably going to cost your team a goal. But I just think he's very, very underappreciated by most people because he can shut down a lot of good small forwards. And yes, he'll get beaten on occasion, right? Because Charlie Cameron will beat any defender if he like on his day. Same with Tom Papley, same with Liam Ryan, same with anyone, right? But against 90% of small forwards on 90% of every game, he'll win that battle, in my opinion. And he's also got a bit of size about him, so he can play taller if needed. Although I don't like him there, but if absolutely needed, he can. So he's starting 22 for me. Is that for you as well?
Yeah, no, he is for me. I'm similar to what you think, and I think, like you said, the hate comes off just only his mistakes. I think people forget he's, like you said, he's a very well-minded player. He knows how to read the play really well. And I think that's a lot more important than making a couple of mistakes a game because, yeah, like you said, like how many defenders have a good day on Liam Ryan, Tom Papley?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't. And he'll make clumsy mistakes, which fair enough, and most players will.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's enough. Like,
yeah, and
my question to anyone else is, well, who takes his spot then?
Exactly. We saw Stocker try to take his spot, and he got killed against Ryan, Papley, and someone else. He got murdered in those games that he didn't play in the middle of the last season. And I just want to touch on obviously why he didn't play those games was that game against Hawthorn. That incident with Jaeger. That I was so happy when that happened. Not because he got suspended or anything like that. Because there's been so much talk about him being soft, about being him weak and all this stuff. And for him to run through Jaeger and Mira like he did, I loved it.
It was great. Yeah, no, I remember being right in line with that play as well. And just
I was sitting on the wing and it was kind of like I just saw two players go bang.
It was great. But yeah, Plowman, he starts for me. Because, like I said, no one's going to take his spot realistically unless he really would have to have complete shocker to just get dropped, in my opinion. 21, Jack Martin. I love what I saw from him. I mean, I guess that first game against Richmond was probably the best footy he could have played. I'm saying Richmond 2020, by the way.
Yeah.
I love him as a player because I just think he's got the real nice, crafty movement about him where he will break ankles in a way. He'll sit outside the contest and you don't know whether he's going left or right, whether he's finding the kick backwards, sideways. Like, you don't know. And I like that unpredictability about him.
I think why that's a good asset for him is because he's very good overhead. That, for me, is his best asset. He's what 180 centimeters, right? He's 185, yet he can mark like a 200 centimeter K forward. He's elite overhead, and that makes him such a difficult proposition because who do you put on him? Do you put someone slightly taller? Because in that case, if the ball goes to ground, Martin will have him. Yet if you put a small defender on him, he'll kill him in the air. He just needs to find that consistency, and then if he does, he'll be very, very dangerous for us.
22 for me, 22 for you.
Yes.
Yeah. On to number 22 himself, Caleb Marchbank. I mean, I think about it now. If anyone's going to take McGovern's position, it will be Marchbank. That's the way I think about it. So I think if he's, I think they were saying like round 6 or 7 for him or something like that. And I think 6 rounds is enough time to figure out with McGovern if it's the right move or not.
Yeah.
So somehow it works very well.
Yeah, it works perfectly.
But I feel like I've forgotten what Marchbank was like as a player. Weirdly
he was so unlucky with injuries. It's unbelievable. But he was very, from what I remember of him, that 2017 year, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So hopefully he can find that form to some extent when he comes back. Fingers crossed. There's no more setbacks.
That is true. I think another injury for him, and that's it. Personally,
probably
not because of football, just
unfortunately so. Yeah.
Just the cruel world of football, I guess. At the end of the day, it's nothing to do with him. Wiedering, sort of another Walsh and Makai player.
Yeah, I just want to touch on quickly. He's now the leader of that back line.
Yeah,
he's the most experienced head. I just want to see how he can command that back six because it'll be interesting to see.
That is true. I mean, I love him as a vice captain option as well. Personally, I would have given him captaincy.
I think he's the natural replacement. I don't think it's Walsh.
That is true.
I think it's Wiedering.
Yeah, it is Wiedering. I mean, personally, I've always liked a defender as a captain in any code. I mean, for you, it's Chelsea, John Terry. They have the best view of the ground 24/7. They can see everything that's in front of them, the movements, everything like that. So
and also they're always commanding, they're a commanding presence. Like Wiedering is this big body. No one beats him. You got beaten once last season. No one beats him. So
it's very easy. He's a 22 for both of us. Nick Newman, number 24. He's been odd, honestly, because sometimes I think he's injured, but he's playing. But you forget he's playing.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a bit more quiet this year. I mean, we saw him yesterday. I think he just plays his role very well to the point where we don't actually notice his playing in a way.
Yeah, he'll. It's almost as if you at the end of the game you're thinking, "Oh, Newman did nothing," and then you check the stats. He had 20 touches, 6 intercept possessions, 8 marks. He just very solid. Just he's obviously not as good as Cade Simpson, right? Well, hopefully he can get to that level, but being that natural replacement has got it's almost uncanny how similar they are. Left foot, unassuming, does his role, can be gritty at times. If he needs to put his head over the pill, he does. I'm a big fan of Nick Newman.
22?
Yes.
I'd say yes for me as well. I think he could be bench if he. I think he's anything really, but he sticks in that 22. 25, Zach Fisher. I guess a lot of people have quite varying opinions on him. I think last year, I think he was similar to someone like Williams, who they just did not click under Teague's system and didn't really enjoy their footy as much. He didn't look comfortable. The only game I remember him being comfortable in was that practice match against St Kilda, and that was at the start of the season. And then he had that ankle injury, and then it just never clicked again for him.
Yeah, he hasn't found his role yet. Is he a midfielder? Is he a winger? Is he a forward? What is he? Once he finds that, he's got the talent. Like no questions. He's got the raw footballing talent. Once he finds his role in his position, I think that's the most important thing for him at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something I think Teague played around with too much, which may have slowed his development down. I think he's a starting 22 player, but only just because, not because of his footballing ability, just because his actual form going into round one. I just think he needs a bit more time, and then I'm got nothing against saying, yeah, you're a 22 player.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he's in just because, and what also is the pro to the con of he hasn't found his position is that he's versatile. He can go on the midfield if he needs. He can play on the wing if absolutely necessary, and can go forward and damage if necessary. So, yeah, I think that's a good asset to have.
Number 26, Luke Parks. Did he play yesterday? Don't think he played yesterday. He did not play yesterday, and he didn't really play the back end of last season too much.
Yeah, he played a couple of games early on.
Games. Yeah, those, that Freo one was the one that stood out for us quite a lot. I'm not sure with Parks. I guess he's one of those guys who will just be a week by week call up basis.
Yeah, if
someone plays poorly.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a lot to really comment on him because he did good things.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. So and he's still only 21. So he'll be 22 in April. So he's got time, and for a defender as well, they do take a while to develop. Obviously, we saw that with Jacob Oidering, right? They take a little bit longer to develop. There's nothing too concerning about Parks at this stage.
Number 27, Mark Pitternet. Look, I have quite negative views on Pitternet, and just I think last year was like the first time I got really into like the stats side of the club, and his stats just didn't impress me at all. I know there's a positive to him, and that positive is he'll win most of your taps.
Yeah,
which is what you need. But the negative is that his hit-out efficiency is extremely poor. It's really, really poor. And it was times where it was at like in the low 20s, mid-20s. And I know you're not going to get like, 50, 60%. But I guess when you have like such a impactful midfield, like we do now, it's so important that he like wins these hit-outs effectively, not just hitting it to the ground.
Yeah.
That's where I stand with him.
Yeah, it also comes down to midfield structure. Because maybe at some stages he literally didn't know where Crips was running because he wasn't told, or that wasn't in the tactics or whatever. But yeah, he's that big body, he's that reliable body, and I think he plays purely just out of I don't think Tom will be fit, so in that case, then he plays round one. But I think he's our starting 22. Obviously, you might disagree, but I just think he's reliable enough, and he doesn't play poorly on a regular occurrence for him not to be. Well,
yeah, he's a starting 22 because, I mean, he's our key ruckman. You can't say no to him. I think I said this to Chera yesterday. I said that the problem was that Cruz's exit was quite unexpected, and we had no one waiting. And you can say DeConey, but he was still quite a way off, and he's still not there. So like we had no one waiting.
Yeah.
Therefore, bringing Pitto in was like I don't know. I think we've just been stuck with a quite unexperienced ruck lineup for the last couple of years, and I think it's I don't know, because you can't. He's not someone you get rid of as a player. It just I don't know how long you can wait until you have a ruckman that's really proficient and makes quite a big impact. Like, you got a Nick Nat, who, like, the reason their midfield is so strong is 90% because of him.
Yeah.
Because he wins their taps.
Yeah.
But he does start.
Yeah. And also, he's only played 33. Like, he's 25, but he's only played 33 games. So he didn't really play at all at Hawthorn. He only played a couple. And then he played, obviously, a majority of 2020 and summer 2021. So maybe his third full season can show a little bit more improvement. But, yeah, I think he starts. He's not an overly, I was going to say advanced, but I think advanced is probably the right word, because he's not flashy. He just does his job as a ruckman that he needs to do, and then he moves on. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I think, well, personally, I want TDK to be the main one.
Yeah, so
in the end, number 28, David Cunningham. We'll sort of move past him because I don't really know when he'll come back, and the injury.
They said mid-season, but
yeah, that's what the injury. But that's usually BS half the time.
Yeah, and also I probably don't want him to come back too early.
I don't. Yeah, I
would rather, because it's not like an important player. I would rather him come back in round 17 or 14 to 17, then play VF off the rest of the season, and then get legs, get minutes, get the miles into the legs, have a full preseason, and then we can assess him at the start of 2023.
No, I agree. I think, yeah, it's a matter of time for him. I think he's nice to know that you've got another depth winner. That's nice, considering we only have one or two more we can rely on. But yeah, look, I think we can ride him off in a way.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that. Number 29, George Hewitt, another player who I love watching. Very good pickup.
Very good.
Just nice to have someone you can rely on in the middle and on the wing.
Yeah.
He just does what you need to do, which that's the thing. And this, I compare him straight away to someone like Nunes, who has been our main one for the last 2 years. Look at the difference. It is, outstanding difference. So,
his pickup came a little bit under the radar because we're all focused on Chera. We're like, oh my god, we need Chera. And then it almost came out of nowhere. We got George Hewitt. I was like, I honestly, my first reaction, I was like, who's George Hewitt? And then I looked, he had 13 tackles in the elimination final or whatever it was. I was like, oh, right. Because he's similar to like Newman. You don't really notice him.
Yeah.
But he just does his job, just does his role.
He'll be great. I'm excited to see what comes out of him. 22 double yeses, I'd assume. 30, fan favourite, Charlie Curnow. Like we sort of touched on before, I don't think we're expecting anything what we got. I think he's a new player, in my opinion. We're looking at a different Charlie Curnow. He's still got that charisma of being able to move his body really well. It's just, I think that leap is gone.
Yeah, he'll be a lot more careful. More careful.
His role will be a lot more ground ball orientated, where he'll look to find stuff that's a lot lower to the ground.
And he can do that. He can do that because he's so agile.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that yesterday. A nice play where he tapped down to, I think it was Owies. It didn't completely work out, but he taps around, runs around, finds that space.
Yeah,
kick from 55 miss. But point is, he still knows how to create those type of silky plays, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, and he kicked 3 behind yesterday, but on any other day that could have been 2 goals won because it just didn't work out for him. But yeah, I think it'll be a different Charlie Curnow, but it'll be similar results.
Yeah,
and I think the difference between Charlie and Harry is your over a 5-game period, he'll kick 2 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals. Whereas Charlie will kick 7 one game, have 1 the next, 2 the next, and then he'll kick 5. He's a little bit more up and down with his performances, but that's just him as a player. And you sacrifice the 1-goal game for the 7-goal game the week before.
Completely true. Starting 22, yep.
Yep.
31, Tom Williamson. I guess what I saw yesterday, and I sort of thought I was a bit confused that he wasn't put up on the win a bit more. I think Voss obviously might not see that in him.
Yeah.
I think maybe we sort of overestimated the actual amount of time he'd get up there just purely because of our situation at the moment.
Yeah.
With the lack of winners at the moment, but he's still impressed down back. I think seeing that he's seemed to bulk up a bit more, which now he doesn't even look like a win player for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. Oh, I looked at him yesterday. I was like, oh, he's filled out big time. Like he's a lot, not even just like muscly, just bigger.
Yeah,
like he just looked like a bigger person. So yeah, that's and if he's done that, that's obviously for a reason, which probably means he's going to be a little bit more defensive, I assume, because the more weight you put on, the less pace or explosiveness you have. I'm no biometrics expert, but I assume that's how it would work in most cases. So yeah, maybe a little bit more of a defensive role for Willow in 2022.
22?
No.
Really?
In that.
Interesting.
Okay. He's probably on the fringe. He's probably your 20th to 26th player, but he doesn't get in for me. I think.
Interesting.
Oh, he might start round 1 because Stocker's not fit, but assuming obviously everyone apart from like your Cunningham's are fit, right? Because we can say that about anyone. Assuming all the short-term injuries have recovered from, I don't think he plays. But
it's interesting.
Yeah, but I think he will crack into the side because he has that hunger to play. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you to an extent. I think he just starts, and I think more of a bench starter rather than an 18 player. But it's interesting. I'm not too sure if Voss will put him up or anything. I think the Melbourne game will be like another key indicator to see what actually is going on with him.
Yeah.
It's a bit of wait and see. Jack Nunes, number 32. Look, I got nothing against him, like as a person, as a player. This is my take on it, that if we are serious as a club to play finals, he's not someone that should be on our list. And it's not because he's like terrible. He just isn't up to the standard.
Yeah. And like we can say, he made me the happiest I think I've ever been in a long time against Freo in 2020.
Yeah,
he will live in Carlton folklore, right? He will live in our memory for a long time. But it's nothing against him. He just isn't up to that level that we want to be.
No. I mean, he walks into a starting 22 in a North Collingwood Gold Coast.
Yeah, and that's it's not like he's a bad player.
No.
Like, it's not like he's rubbish. He just, that's his level, in my opinion.
So, I think that's, he's a starter. Starting 22 is a no for me.
Yeah, so I don't think he starts.
But, like, he's at least, like, yes, an option that he can play his role if you really need to.
It's like, if he plays 10 games a season, or if he plays 10 games a season, you'll know from 9 of those 10 games, he'll give you a 6.5 minimum, 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I have confidence in him to do that over 10 games, sporadically throughout the season, then 22 throughout. So yeah.
Number 33. It's got Lewis Young as 33, but I think, is that his number? Let's assume it's his number. Let's just talk about Lewis Young either way. And honestly, there isn't much to talk about him. I have no clue about him.
Yeah, I'm not too cleared up on him either.
So I think it's, and I think a lot of people listening will be the same. So we'll skip over him.
Yeah, so from what I know, he's a little bit more lockdown defender rather than intercept. So it's him and he's battling for Oscar Macdonald's role.
Yeah.
Rather than Mitch Mcgovern's, from what I know of anyway.
Number 34, Sam Philp. I mean, I think we can agree he's going to play his role in the reserves, but he's yet again one of those, we talk about, who was it? It was saying players like Camp, they'll just keep progressing. It's a development thing.
I didn't mind him yesterday against the Saints. Did you?
Yeah, no, he was. I mean, I watched back some of the game, and he actually created 3 of our 5 goals in the first quarter.
Yeah, he's very crafty.
Yeah, he knows where to go. He knows where to get into those spaces. But it's it's just a development thing. I mean, you can't. It's nothing against. Oh no, he can't play. It's just there's just ultimately players that will.
Yeah, he's still only 20. So
yeah. Ed Curnow, yet again, we'll start with, is he a 22 player?
Oh.
It's very tough. It's very, very tough now.
Yes.
And I don't personally know my answer either. Yes.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say yes, because he's reliable. He's the most reliable of the whole squad, in my opinion. And we know what we're going to get from him. It's not like he's reliable in terms of overall performance. He's reliable in terms of what he's good at. He's really good at, and what he's not. So we all know disposal efficiency perhaps isn't his strength, but he'll get you 30 touches a game between that mark. And he's a really good player at getting the ball and getting it forward, which, you'd rather pinpoint someone from outside 50, but especially in scrappy games when you just need to get the ball inside 50 as much as possible, he's one of the best at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say yes, only because I don't even really know how many players I've said yes to so far.
Yeah, same.
It's weird. So, I think it's I don't know, depends who I've already said yes to, because I think you got to compare him, I think, at the same time to other players of similar type, because he may be in a best 22 players, but is he the best 2 in the role sort of thing?
Well, it's him and George Hewitt.
Yeah.
He play similar roles, and if Voss wants to play 2 of the same player, then he plays. If not, then
Number 36, Josh Honey. Another one where I liked what I saw. He played at the back end of the season. He played yesterday?
No,
he didn't. No,
I don't think
there
so.
were a lot of small forwards. Forwards.
Yeah,
it was interesting to see.
Maybe he did, but maybe I just didn't recognize it without the hair, without the mullet.
But yeah, Josh Honey. Yeah, it's probably just another development thing. But I'm liking that we have a lot of options in the reserves that can really push for a spot, and they'll come in and make an impact.
If I don't know, one of our, say, Silvani goes down, right? Knock on wood, he doesn't, right? But if he does, and Josh Honey comes in, I think most fans will be like, all right, fine, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is relieving, because we haven't had that, the luxury of having a reserves guy come in and you don't know, we at least know they'll perform, and at least an 80% chance. 37, Jordan Boyd. He didn't impress me yesterday, to be quite honest.
Yeah, he was a little bit, I was going to say nervous, but he didn't look up to it, did he?
Yeah. I just think he's much more underdeveloped than...
Yeah.
Probably the most underdeveloped, and Alex Murkoff, which we'll touch a bit later. But
and he's 23, right? So he's got he
it's not
does
much longer.
Yeah. It might be his last year.
It's a bit. Then, to be fair, he didn't get picked out of the post-season draft. It was just a mid-season pickup. I think it's just a wishful thinking. See what you can make out of him, a Marlon Pickett sort of thing. But I think it's a very low chance of those type of players making it through anyway. 39, Oscar Macdonald, another one of Terry's favourites. It's so weird because he played. What did he play the first? He played round one, and then he had that back injury, and he was out for
the whole season. And
When
now
it was
he's
meant to be
playing as a defender.
6 or 7 weeks he was meant to be out apparently, and
Well, now he's our second best. Well, second best. He's our second key defender, and he played there at Melbourne, and he played more than serviceable there. I think if you speak to most Melbourne fans, they'll say, yeah, he was good enough. Like maybe not good enough to be in a premiership team, but I'm not sure a lot of people would say, I don't know, Jacob Bowie would be a lot of in premiership teams at the start of the season. So you never know, and it's about structure. So I think he played well yesterday. He did his job. He kept Max King pretty quiet. So when he played on him. So yeah, I'm excited to see how he can impact in our defensive six.
So would you consider him a 22 player?
Yeah.
You would? Yeah. He's a sub for me.
Then who plays as
sub.
Who plays as that second tall in defence?
Yeah, I mean it's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just because I've forgotten what he was like. It's it's hard to vision, and we go through so many names, and I'm you lose track of who you talk about. But he's not at least he's not a reserves player for me.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. 41 is Dominic Akui, which was one of our
train
picker.
Oh
no,
he was a rookie.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we'll move past because we got no idea. Adam Sard, number 42, straight in for both of us. I think the same as not as much as Williams, but he did look a bit comfortable. Pom touched on it a bit last night, and I sort of look back and agree with him that his running patterns were a bit odd at times, where he'd confuse the ball handler, which the way he wanted to run, and it would sort of halt the momentum. So is that something a bit concerning?
I mean, I didn't notice that. So it's interesting you bring that up. I didn't notice it. Obviously, I noticed it a little bit, but I didn't notice it as a massive problem. That might just be because it was their first game, and he was just kind of first game of the season. He was just finding grips with what he was doing. But yeah, he's like Williams, but to a lesser extent, where he was a little bit underwhelming. Not as much as Williams, just a little bit underwhelming. And yeah, he needs to improve and find that level that he was at Essendon. But yeah, I'm confident that he'll find it.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's going to keep his spot.
Yeah,
95% of the time. So just a matter of that connection with him and Williams, whether they can at least there's some tactical implementation that just they know where each player will kick or run.
Yeah,
it just helps the flow at the end of the day. So that's what we expect from him. Number 43, Will Setterfield, my personal favourite.
Yeah, I'll let you take the floor.
I mean, to be fair, I was very, very lenient with him, and I thought, look, it's just Teague. I still think he's a very talented player. I think Teague really ruined him, unfortunately, which is sad because my perspective now is that he has the talent, but the problem is I can't back him up when he doesn't perform well because he just has to find it. Once he finds it, he's a 22 player.
Yeah.
But I can't keep backing him up if he's not at that form still. That's all.
I saw him playing on the wing at times for the majority of yesterday, and he was playing as this defensive winger. So from what I saw, I'm not sure if I was seeing this wrong, but he was always a kick behind the ball at every stage, pretty much. He wasn't really going inside 50 and making an impact. So, and I don't mind that because he's that big body and he can take an overhead mark. Obviously we know how good he is in the contested scenario. So I don't mind if he's a little bit more conservative in his positioning, and that obviously means that he doesn't have to get up and down as much which helps him as well because he's not like an Ed Kerno where he can run all day type thing.
Yeah, no, I think what you were saying about his wing position is more of a defensive player, similar to that 2019 style that he adapted. Yeah. I think he was a bit more offensive minded in 2019, so I sort of think it's just integrating both of them at the same, together this year. For me, yes, it is a start in 22 out of bias, but I'm not. He's someone who I wouldn't be afraid to drop.
Yeah,
I think you could get the best out of him.
Yeah,
while working his way back up.
Yeah, I don't think he's starting 22, but in the VFL he will have 30 odd touches, and he will have a massive impact because he's too good for that level, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is true. I think he's just
he's again that 20 to 26 player. Yeah.
Maddo is 44. I will start again 22.
Yes.
He's just a yes for me. But something.
Well, it depends. If I assume Voss would want to play at least one natural small forward.
Yeah.
And for me, Owens is the most well versed in that role at the moment. I think Moloch will overtake him eventually, but we saw he kicked 15 goals last season. So 15 goals in 14 games, pretty good for a small forward, right? Especially one that's played its first full season.
Well, he's someone at least that's very interchangeable for you get your Honey, Durden types. So I think sure you can start, but also just know that you're constantly being watched.
Yeah, which is good because he'll make sure that his performance is at his best all the time.
Yep, easy with him. 45, Alex Murkoff. So, I mean, what we sort of said before with Boyd, he played some ruck minutes yesterday, which expected. He's got the opportunity to, get some game time. And look, he's another Boyd where he's not. He came out of, I think it was just the amateur. It was old Melbourne Grammar or something like that. So I know we're not going to expect insane performances, but look, he just didn't look like he's up to it personally. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with obviously the old saying, big men take longer to develop. I do think that's the case because they need to feel out their body more, and obviously he's a very tall boy. He's very tall.
Yeah.
So he's got that natural. I was speaking about this with my brother. I was like, his ruck craft doesn't need to be as good as someone like a DeConning or a Pitnet because he's 210 centimeters. So he'll get to the ball first more often than not. So he doesn't need to fight. He doesn't need to figure out his body positioning as much. Obviously, he still needs to, but yeah, he's got more chances than Boyd for me.
No, yeah, I can. Yeah, I can agree with that statement. I think I'm interested to see how long the club will give him. I don't know whether they'll put 2 or 3 more years in, or they're sort of just watching how this year goes. I think if he performs well in the reserves the whole year, they'll give him 1 more year.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's not much for us to really comment on, just purely because it's one game. But I'm not sure whether he'll play against Melbourne. I
don't think he will.
I feel like if DeConing's not there, he might just get a call up.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think they're still extended squads.
Oh, okay.
26, possibly.
Okay, then he probably will. It's all about DeConing. Yeah, if DeConing doesn't get it up, then yeah.
I remember last year the St Kilda game we had. I think there were 2 players that came on after half time. So I think it's extended squads possibly, which hopefully, because then you get at least another look at him. Last one on the list, Matt Cottrell. He's another one who I don't know where he went as a player. He's just gone off the radar a little bit.
He's probably the only player on this list which I just don't rate.
Yeah, that's quite fair. I'm not someone I don't.
And it's harsh.
I don't know.
It's harsh.
He just doesn't.
But
it's one of those Nunes guys and Nunes players where it's okay, look, if we're serious, is he in that team?
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, he's not.
And with Nunes will give you a 6.5, 7 out of 10 every game. Cottrell will give you a 5.
Yeah, So that's look, and the thing is, he won't even push in from the reserves, unless he really, which it just won't happen.
Yeah.
So that's why we sit with him. So that's our player review done, and now we move to the last part: expectations. This is varied, dependent on who you talk to. We want finals, yes. It's just given that every team wants finals. I think we're not. Let's set our maximums and our minimums in terms of ladder position.
Okay.
And if I had to say a max, I would say 6. If I had to say minimum, 10th.
Are you saying minimum in terms of like where you think?
The highest we can go and the lowest we can go.
Minimum 11th. Max 5th. Where I think we'll finish 6th.
Where I think we'll finish is, it's so hard because my whole guess comes off what happens in round 1. So I'm going to give you my 2. Round 1 win, 7th. Round 1 loss, 10th.
Okay.
Purely based off that.
No pressure.
Because it is no pressure. Well, it's just what we've seen.
We haven't beaten them in that game in literally 10 years.
They don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, look, it's the history tells you that you got a higher chance that it won't happen. I guess benchmarks. So, we talked about this in the fixture analysis, but it's hard to predict the season because teams change. People predict the ladder off the 2021 form, and it's as if it's going to last 22 rounds, which it's not. So when we get to round 10, let's say, for example, we're 4 and 6, but we're only a game off the top 8. Are we happy with that, or are we not happy with that?
No. I think because we shouldn't compare ourselves. I think fans will, and I know I definitely will. We could be 1 and 6, but if for whatever reason we're 1 game out of the 8, I'll be like, but we're only 1 game out of the 8. Like, we're still fine, type of thing. But we, as a club, I don't think they will. I think they will just look at their results, and if they're 4 and 6, they won't be happy with that. So, yeah.
Well, I think a realistic benchmark, and you'll probably agree, is at least after round 3 or 4 to stay above 0.5.
Yeah.
That's, I think, because I know it's not always, you're probably going to drop one game under, 1 game over, as you go along. But I think it takes away the whole who you're playing scenario.
Yeah.
You just want to stay above 0.5 because realistically, what's 0.5? That's 11-11 at the end of the season, and 11 wins at least sneaks you into 8th, I think.
It could.
10 wins does sometimes. So
it's if you get 11. So it's like my theory is 13 locks you in. 12, you're a good chance. 11, you're teetering. 10 wins, you'll be lucky.
I think 11 or 10, it's percentage based. I think that's that's sort of how you look at it. And then another thing I said to you, it's just home games. You win your home games.
Yeah.
Done. It's not always going to happen, but that's quite easy.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
It's a benchmark to set.
Yeah, it is a benchmark. And it's unfortunate that we don't have it like, European soccer leagues where it's a home crowd. Like you're not sharing a ground.
Yeah.
So it's not always going to be that type of advantage, but it's, your members that have got their section to themselves. So
I think like West Coast have that.
Yeah, they do. That's a team, and they win those games.
Yeah, like if they play 11 home games, you'd think they'd win at least 9 every single season.
Yeah, that is true. Couple last tips and predictions. Leading goal kicker.
Harry Makai.
I'm going to stick with Harry as well. Who's taking out the disposal count?
Like an average or like total?
What was that? Sorry.
Like an average per game or total?
Yeah, we'll say average. We'll say average.
Okay. Assuming, yeah, okay. Walsh probably.
I'm gonna say Hewitt.
Yeah, I can say that.
I think he just gets his hand. Hewitt or Chera. I think one of the new guys. More Hewitt. I think, yeah, someone who just.
Yeah.
He's one of those who was saying that you'll look at the stats later on, you just think, oh, geez, there's no way this guy had that many touches. Who's leading the tackles? Who's going to be the main man?
George Hewitt.
George Hewitt.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna say
and he'll be a barometer for every single other player.
That's true. Yeah, I think Paddy Crips is going to bring it.
I was going to say Smokey Patrick Crips. Yeah.
Paddy Crips. Marks wise, who's I'm going to say forwards. Who's really leaping up and taking those marks?
Charlie, because I think he'll play. I think he's better at presenting than Harry. Harry kind of, from what I noticed last year, kind of just stands there and points, whereas Charlie's a lot quicker and agile than Harry. So he'll dart around, he'll weave in and out of players, and then he'll make that run into space. So yeah, he'll get into open spaces a lot more. So I reckon he'll take them more. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna Jack Martin for that one.
I can say that's very good. Yeah.
And then backline, let's take out Wiedering, who makes the biggest impact.
Mitch Mcgovern.
Mitch Mcgovern.
Yeah, all Australian squad. I've said that multiple times.
You have said that a couple of times. It is an interesting one. Look, I'm going to say Marchbank, but only I'm talking more about the biggest impact.
Okay, yeah.
Not over the full season because he won't play enough to actually have that highest average, but I think he'll come in and establish himself again really quickly.
Yeah.
Someone I think is going to be there. And then our last scene, let's assume we finish 6th or 7th, like we've said. How far do we make it? We'll give the best possible scenario where even if it's a 7th and it's an away final, but it's against the Bulldogs at the MCG.
Yeah, premiership.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. In all seriousness, our highest prelim, and highest prelim, and I'm not saying grand final for two reasons. One, we're not experienced, and B, you need the heartbreak before you need to fall short before you get there.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think if we make finals, we'll win one.
Yeah, no,
that's both my minimum and my actual expectation.
I think could go a lot of ways because yes, I think we'll win one, but only if it's in Melbourne. I don't think this team could travel interstate and knock off anyone because whether it's an away final or a home final at the G, and unless it's a Richmond or like someone big, we're probably going to have the majority. Because like I say, Western Bulldogs, well, they're going to put it at the G.
Yeah.
Would have it. So like that's why I just think, but otherwise, interstate, I think we will. I don't really see us getting past first week. I think a lot of things would have to go our way leading into that final. Like if you go back to the Richmond one, like we had nothing to lose, so like it was just. Whereas, I just think could you imagine that pressure? I haven't experienced it, so. Look, I'm still very pessimistic. I don't think finals will happen. I want it to be a surprise. I just want it to be a surprise.
Yeah. So if you have the lowest like expectations, anything above it is a positive.
Great.
So I reckon we'll win another wooden spoon. So finish 17th. That's positive.
I can't wait to get the number one pick.
Yeah.
All right,
that'll be good.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you for joining me today. We'll be back in 10 months to review this all and laugh or cry or whatever we do for these.
Probably cry. In all honesty, that's what we said.
Be sure to check out Ari's podcast, Two-Footed Tackle Podcast. It is all on the round ball. More videos coming out. Round 1 preview coming out soon. But until then, we will make sure to keep you up with all Blues content. Hope everyone has a good week, and until then, go Blues.
See you guys.